Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Thank you so much for joining as we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. And this afternoon, we are going to look at the title, How the West Uses Haiti, Jamaica, and Guyana for Strategic Gain. You want to stay and hang around for a very riveting conversation with me, Rumination with Andrew. And let me just thank those of you who have subscribed and have got me to over 2K subscribers. I thank you so much for doing that. And we have a far journey left to go. So I hope that you will hit the subscription button. And I'm also appealing to my younger audience, those 18 and above. Please make sure that you hit the subscription button because you are the one, or the ones, I should say, who are going to effectuate any change in the world. So we must understand that at my age now, I'm in my upper 40s, I am not going to be that change agent. Of course, I have garnered a certain amount of wisdom and understanding and knowledge that I'd like to share with you, but most of the change will come from our young people, those within the ages 18 to 35 and perhaps in their lower 40s. So I'm appealing to you that you will subscribe and make sure that you join the Rumination gang. So to all of my subscribers in the Caribbean, in the wider Caribbean, from Jamaica to Guyana to Barbados to Antigua, make sure that you are subscribing. And imagine we have a number of countries in the Caribbean Sea. We are populated region. When you think about Haiti, Haiti has how many people? 12 million people. The DR has about that number of people, 11, 12 million people. Jamaica has 3 million people. And we know in Barbados, we have over 300,000 people. So when we pool those islands together, if I can get 1,000 subscribers from these islands, from each island, can you imagine that we can be at 20K subscribers in no time? Why don't we do that? And for those of you who are watching the video, try to get your friends and your family members and your colleagues to subscribe to Rumination with Andrew for serious Caribbean political commentaries. Haiti, Jamaica, Guyana, three proud countries. Yet today, all three are being used as chess pieces in a much bigger game. The West calls it partnership. I call it control. And once you see how deep it goes, you'll never look at our political leaders the same way again. So we understand that Jamaica, Haiti, Guyana, all very resource-rich countries, whether it's bauxite, it's aluminum, it is gold, right, and other rare earth minerals. We know that these three countries are very important in U.S. foreign policy. Now, the CIA has been operating in Jamaica since 1970s and perhaps before. We know that in Guyana also during the Burnham administration that the CIA was there, toppled his progressive government. We know that in Haiti, the U.S. has been trying from ever since Haiti had gotten its independence to dethrone the liberation spirit that the Haitians have inherently enmeshed in their psyche. The Haitians are people who believe in freedom, and they were the first truly democratic state or republic in the Western Hemisphere. And for those of you who don't understand, the Caribbean region, we are Westerners also. I think that we are the authentic Westerners because we were the ones who, the history started with when the European settlers came here. And first of all, we had our indigenous people who lived here long before the Europeans settled here. So if anything, we are the real Westerners. For decades, Haiti, Jamaica, and Guyana have been presented as partners of the West. But behind the scenes, we have a system of control where the United States control the region. Okay, and that is what we have to understand, from oil deals and IMF loans to military bases and political influence. The West had its hand in these Caribbean territories. So in this video, we're going to break down how each country is strategically important to the West particularly to the United States, and why these countries are important in U.S. foreign policy. Now, when we look at Jamaica, for example, there is a very interesting article here that's coming from the Our Today paper that was published some time ago, but still relevant, February 18th, 2025, and it was written by Dennis Minot, and he says billionaires, and he's playing on the word here, billionaires, E-E-R-S, not the A-I-R-E-S, as we're accustomed to spelling that word. Billionaires, he's actually playing on the word buccaneers. And we know about the English buccaneers, the French buccaneers, the Spanish buccaneers, and they're coming into our world and capturing our lands and capturing our resources and enriching themselves from the human resources also through slavery that they brought here to the Caribbean region and also to Latin America and across the Americas. So the Dennis Minot titled his article, Billionaires with the EERS of the Caribbean from Privateers to State Capture. And he says here, Jamaica and the wider Caribbean have long been fertile ground for fortune seekers, from the notorious buccaneers of the 17th century to today's billion-dollar oligarchs. So the means may have changed. Cutlasses replaced by contracts, cannon fire by campaign financing, but the underlying story remains the same. A region rich in resources and culture repeatedly plundered by those who see it as a prize rather than a home. So they're not settlers as the buccaneers back then. In Haiti and Jamaica, for example, we had the absentee farmers or planters, not farmers, but planters, who would allow what you call now these men to work on the farm, on the plantations, governors, while they would sit in their home countries, in France and in England and wherever they were, and then they would generate all that money and they would be enriched without having to live there. They weren't settlers as we saw in the United States, and to some extent, some of the English settled in Barbados, but many of the French and the British did not settle in Jamaica and Haiti, respectively. They were largely absentee plantation countries. That's the system of slavery that they practiced. And for that reason, we could see that there was more development in Barbados than you would see in Jamaica, that you would see also in Haiti, because once you're not having these people settling there, once they're not living there, then they're not going to be willing to develop the infrastructure to any great degree. They'll develop enough so that they can transport their goods and their services. Now, the Caribbean's past is a tale of conquest and commerce, where the line between enterprise and exploitation has always been blurred. So there's a line between enterprise and exploitation. So they come and they say that they are investing, they are foreign investors, but most times, 95% out of 100 times, they are exploiting the citizens. Very important that we understand that. Now, we must also understand that the local oligarchs, be they the Haitian oligarchs, the Jamaican oligarchs, the Guyanese oligarchs, the Barbadian oligarchs, the Antiguan, and any country from which you hail, these oligarchs work along with the global oligarchs. Remember now that during slavery, you had the governor. So you had a governor for Jamaica, a governor for Haiti, a governor for, Antigua, for Barbados, and they would work along with the then empires, to effectuate policies not in the interest of the country, but in the interest of the colonial empire. Very important that remember these historical facts. Now, today we witness a new chapter written by billionaires, and I'm saying he's playing on the word EERS, not the buccaneers, but they are now the billionaires, modern day profiteers, who, like the privateers and buccaneers before them, manipulate the system to extract wealth while ensuring that power remains in the hands of a privileged few. So power is going to be remaining in the hands of a privileged few, and that is what they do here. Now, let us see how they achieve such a great feat in terms of controlling the Caribbean territory or the Caribbean islands. They do so through privatization and monopoly control. So we have essential services like electricity, water, and telecommunications are often handed over to private interests under the promise of efficiency. In reality, these industries become cash cows for a select few, with consumers paying exorbitant prices for basic needs while innovation and competition are stifled. Another way in which they control these billionaires or privateers control the Caribbean region, they control it through political influence and state capture. By funding election campaigns and cultivating personal ties with politicians, billionaires ensure that laws and policies favor their business interests. They write the rules of the game while pretending to play fair. Those who challenge them find themselves outmaneuvered, outspent, or outright silenced. Very important that you understand that. A third way in which they control the region, these billionaires and these buccaneers and these oligarchs, through offshore havens and tax evasion. The Caribbean is famous for being a tax haven, but while foreign billionaires stash their wealth here, regional billionaires master the game from within, setting up offshore structures to hide profits, avoid taxes, and move money beyond the reach of local governments. And we heard that about Andrew Holness. We know about the Haitian oligarchs and their monies in Miami, in other jurisdictions where they are not allowed to disclose their their true wealth. Now, they also do it through tourism takeovers. So the cruise lines, the resorts, and mega hotels that dominate the region do little for local economies. Instead, they extract wealth, paying low wages, dodging taxes, and ensuring that most profits flow back to foreign accounts. Locals are left with seasonal jobs while their nation's natural beauty is commodified for private gain. And we are seeing that in Jamaica. For example, most of our beaches have been captured. Most of nature, the natural resources we have there, and places that people can go and relax have been captured by foreign investors. Now, they also control the region through the capture and of land and resource grabs. So from beaches to bauxite mines, natural resources are bartered away in secretive deals, as we're seeing with the oil deal in Guyana. The oil deal in Guyana, which I'll be addressing shortly, often in the name of foreign investment. That is what they do, and they say we all have to have foreign investments. AK, and I say that you're talking about the Buccaneers coming back, or you're talking about the word has just eluded me now. The Buccaneers and the what? I'm sorry, that word has just eluded me. I will tell you when I remember it. These agreements prioritize corporate profits over sustainable development, leaving environmental destruction and disenfranchisement in their wake. All right, so with this sustainable development that they're talking about, it's really capturing of your lands. That is what they're doing. So every time you hear the word sustainable development, think about the capturing of our lands. Very important that you understand that they use a lot of these code words that you will have to pick up on for you to understand what really is happening. And another way in control is through the greenwashing of exploitation. Today's billionaires have mastered the art of rebranding instead of openly looting the region. They now speak the language of development and sustainability, co-opting renewable energy projects, agricultural initiatives, and infrastructure deals in ways that ultimately benefit them more than the public. And that is what we have to understand when we're seeing these mega projects, these mega highways going up. It's oftentimes it's beautiful and sometimes it's convenient for those locals who can pay, could afford to either travel on these highways or to go out to these hotels. But for the majority, these projects are not in the interests of the large majority of the country in terms of the citizens of those respective countries. The same monopolists who resisted renewable energy for years now rush to control it, ensuring that even the transition away from fossil fuels remains in their grasp. So, years ago, I was pleased to attend at the Jamaican Embassy in Washington, D.C., a lecture that was done by a Jamaican, I think he was an environmental scientist. And he said for decades, and that was presentation was done in 2003, that presentation was made. in 2003 in Washington, D.C., and I was pleased, I had the privilege of attending, and I bought his book too. And in his book, he wrote that he had actually summoned the Jamaican government, encouraged the then Jamaican government under the PJ-led Patterson government to invest in renewable energy, to invest in solar energy at the time. That's what he was mentioning. And we could have reduced the cost of electricity. But now we have to be working with the foreign investors, and we have to be on the UN and the World Economic Forum agenda. Because if we don't do it their way, then we are not going to be able to do it. We're not going to get the green light to work on that project. Very important that we understand that. So we have nowhere is the billionairing more evident than in Jamaica's energy sector. Electricity remains a monopoly controlled by interests that dictate prices while ensuring that cheaper renewable alternatives remain locked behind bureaucratic barriers. The billionaires who own these utilities reap massive profits while everyday Jamaicans struggle under exorbitant rates. And that is what is happening there. That is what is happening in the land of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. But the government of the day is not concerned about that. What they're concerned is about getting their kickbacks, right? Their monetary reward, their financial rewards, and the people can suffer, if you will. Now, this is an article that was written, and I thought that some of the ideas mentioned about the Haitian situation. We know that the Haitian situation is a dire situation in the Caribbean, and they have been fighting for hundreds of years for liberation, for true liberation, not for just some liberation that we say we're free and we're not free. Haitians have always fought for true liberation. They believe in nothing but true liberation. They do not want it to be, decorated, a decorated form of liberty. That's not what they're working towards. That's what you have in the US, particularly, but Haitians have always believed in true, permanent liberty. Okay, now we have this article is coming from the Camera, the CaribbeanCamera.com, the Caribbean Camera, and it says here the US must stop backing notorious white lords in Haiti. Very important that you understand the US must stop backing notorious white lords in Haiti. Haiti's oligarchy of light-skinned white families are the rulers of the country and act in collusion with the US to maintain their power and prevent the emergence of a sovereign nation which operates on behalf of all its people. Now, the Haitians have always known that their oligarchs do not mean them well. Okay, but it's in recent times that Jamaicans and other members of the Caribbean region are recognizing that we also have oligarchs. Okay, we too have oligarchs in our neck of the woods. All right, so we have oligarchs in our neck of the Caribbean woods, right? So the fact is that these oligarchs work in tandem, right, to ensure that they actually suppress Caribbean wealth and the wealth of the country. That is what they often do. They work collaboratively, the local oligarchs along with the external oligarchs, the global oligarchs. So oftentimes we blame North America, we blame Spain, we blame France, but we do not look also at the 21 families of Jamaica, for example, or how many families in Haiti, or how many families that own Guyana, what they are doing, and Barbados, Antigua, what they're doing to arrest and to extract the wealth from the citizens of that country. There exists a numerically minuscule but economically powerful set of inbreeding oligarch families in Haiti who are not descendants of deported and enslaved Africans, like 99% of Haitians. The first ancestors of these white oligarchs arrived on the island in the late 1800s as refugees from Syria, Palestine, Lebanon, and later as the World War II European refugees of Jewish heritage. So the writer is here suggesting that these white and mixed oligarchs, they are recent immigrants. They are recently arrived. Well, they were here from some time, but, they were not the original descendants of slaves. So they're there, the ones who are descendants of slaves, they're the ones who are fighting for true liberty. But these ones have been sent or were sent to arrest the wealth of the slaves, put them into the hands of these people, the Lebanese and the Palestinians and the people of Jewish descent, and who have married into black families and they have mixed children to control the wealth of the country. And the US uses them to preserve the wealth and to keep it out of the hands of the large majority of descendants of slave. The large majority of the descendants of slave. And the same thing happens in Jamaica, that the oligarchs work in tandem with US and Western oligarchs to keep the majority of wealth in the hands of the few and to extract the wealth from the large majority of Jamaicans who are there and thinking that, their problems will be solved by just voting in and out of office a prime minister. Okay. Now, Professor Lumumba, and he is a Kenyan professor. In an article that was written in the Guyanese paper, that is it Kaitor? Guyana's contract with Exxon must be described as theft. Professor Lumumba is saying would not have happened in the US. Professor PLO Lumumba says. And given his understanding of the 2016 Strabonic block production sharing agreement between Guyana and an ExxonMobil-led consortium, Kenyan lawyer and anti-corruption legend, Professor Patrick Locke Otieno, Lumumba believes the deal can only be described as theft. That's what the professor is saying. Now listen to what he continues to say. Professor Lumumba made the foregoing comment during an appearance on the Glenn Lol show. There he was asked about politicians' constant use of the principal sanctity of contract to avoid renegotiating the Strabonic block deal. Professor Lumumba was quick to note that the law must not be used in such a manner that it legitimizes the illegitimate. And he says here, and I quote Professor Lumumba, "It is improper to have a contract which legitimizes theft, and I have some idea of the contract that the government of Guyana has entered into with ExxonMobil. It is theft, and it must be described as theft." And he went on to say that Americans would not have tolerated that. The Americans would not have tolerated that sort of contract. So why should the Guyanese people tolerate it? Why should they? And he's talking about the sanctity. They've made it known to us that all contracts are, they talk about the sanctity of the contracts. They're binding, which, yeah, contracts are really binding, but they should be able to be renegotiated if they are not justly written and justly crafted. They must be reassessed and be rewritten. But that is not what is happening in Guyana. It seems to me that the contract that was actually written up and was signed off on between Guyana and ExxonMobil is one which benefits the oil company at the expense of the Guyanese people, who are left without the development projects that they should have and they could use to build up their country and to become a first world country. Based on the billions of barrels of oil that they're suggesting that Guyana has, among other natural resources that Guyana has, because Guyana is a resource-rich country. Everybody in Guyana, because the population is not a large population, everybody in Guyana should be able to live comfortably, attend free schools up to university level, have paved roads, government assistance. They should have hospitals, first class, modern hospitals, because of the large sums of money that are being generated from these oil fields. But apparently, the contract didn't allow the Guyanese people to be able to get or to obtain that sort of remuneration and the benefits that would have accrued to them. And we must look at the responsibility of government. Our governments are not representing the populace. They are representing financial interests. They are among the billionaire class, as the writer Dennis Minot said in our Today paper about Jamaica. But what he said about Jamaica is applicable to all countries within the Caribbean and also to the United States. All right, so those of you from the United States who are watching, it's the same thing happening there, where the country is also being sold out to the highest bidder. Know that when Trump came back into power, he was suggesting that those people who have $1 billion, $1 million, they can buy their green cards. Come. He's suggesting that they should come. So the country should be sold to the highest bidder. And the country was founded for people who are destitute, the persons who are yearning for freedom and who want to improve on their economic lot in their lives. But Trump and the United States, by extension, is seeking to eradicate that sort of mission that the United States was founded to accomplish and to fulfill in the lives of underprivileged, of the underprivileged and the oppressed. So we find in our Caribbean region that our governments are suppressing the full potential of its citizens. Haiti, for example, should not be in the position that it's currently in, because it too, the people are hardworking, the people believe in liberty, right? And they sit atop of our understanding, oil, gold, and perhaps other rare mineral earth, other rare earth minerals, such as what was it called again? Iridium or iridium, whatever they call it. Yeah. So Haiti should be a wealthy country. And if not wealthy, but all citizens should have been able to live comfortably in the country, the land of Toussaint Louverture. They should have been able to live comfortably in the land of Toussaint Louverture, because under the French rule, Haiti was the wealthiest colony in the world. Now, after the Haitian Revolution, do you know that after the revolution, that, well, in the midst of it, because it was ongoing until they eventually gained their independence in 1804. But when it had calmed down, when the tide had calmed down, the political waves and the tide had been calmed, that Toussaint Louverture was able to rebuild the country and restore it back to the days when it was progressive. But in that time, the wealth was going to be used for the development of the Haitians. But we know what happened afterwards, that Napoleon sent his army there, and the rest is history. Okay? And after the new leader came into, Jacques Dessalines came into power, he was not the leader that of the likes of yourself. I mean, he was a leader in terms of giving the freedom over to the Haitians, in terms of fighting, a great fighter, a great warrior. But in terms of the vision for Haiti, and he did not live long too, so we also have to take that into consideration. He died shortly after the revolution was won and had been declared. But we know that if Toussaint was not captured, that he would have built up Haiti to become one of, if not the wealthiest nations in this hemisphere. They would be one of the wealthiest nations in this hemisphere, if not the wealthiest nation. Okay, but fate would not have allowed him to have achieved that sort of grandiose feat, a mammoth task, and he accomplished it. But because of what was happening, and Napoleon came and he was able to capture him, then all of that vision for Haiti that he had, and Toussaint Louverture was a Marcus Garvey. It's almost like they were men of their time, born from the same mother. What vision they had for their people, upward social mobility. And they were not just talkers, they were workers. So whatever they said was not just coming from ideology, but it was merged with praxis, with what to do. And I am telling you, go and read the book by C.L.R. James on the Haitian Revolution. And the manner in which, and his book is well documented with great sources, okay, in which he described the fact that Toussaint Louverture was able to rebuild Haiti after the collapse, after the complete collapse during what is known as the revolution, after the political tide had, I told you, had been calmed, but then it came back up. And the wars continued when Napoleon sent his army in until eventually Haiti captured and reclaimed its independence. But the oligarchs in Haiti, the elites, wouldn't have allowed, the Haitian elites wouldn't have allowed the large majority of dark-skinned people, of descendants of slaves, to inherit the wealth and to be a part of the wealth. So they excluded them. And the same thing we see in Jamaica. The same thing we see in Jamaica, that the wealth is often extracted from the majority of the descendants of slaves, which Jamaica and Haiti comprise. The population of Jamaica and Haiti are largely made up of descendants of slaves. Okay, and that is why we're seeing almost the same conditions. Jamaica is a little bit better because we had our independence and much later. We got our independence much later from Great Britain. We didn't challenge Great Britain. We didn't fight her for, well, we fought in terms of the slave, the wars that we did, the rebellions. But in terms of after emancipation, we did not present a war and say we want to be free and wage a war against Great Britain. And if we had told Great Britain and we had kicked them out after emancipation, then we probably wouldn't have been the position we're in right now. So our independence was not really fought for. Emancipation, yes. Not so much for it. I think that after we had been emancipated, we thought that's where it ended. But that was where the journey began. Because we should now have economic, political, social, right? And medical independence. But we don't have those. We don't have those. And the entire Caribbean region from Guyana, for example, I understand is rich in food, in agricultural products. Right? We should be coming together as a region. One country should be specializing in another. So let us say Guyana, Haiti in agricultural products, Jamaica in something else, another Trinidad in another area, Barbados, and then we should pool now our resources. Instead, most of our foods, if you go to Jamaica, and I'm sure if you go to Haiti, if you look at what is happening in the DR, among other Caribbean countries, most of what we eat are coming from the US and other countries. It should not be happening here. It should not be happening in the region because we have the capacity, we have the intelligence. Some of the best foods come from the Caribbean. The best mangoes, the best fruits, the best vegetables, the best of anything that you can think about, the best cooked meals, okay, the best cuisines, gastronomy, whatever you want to call it. We have it here. Some of the best universities, the best skills training institutes are here. And yet still, we have not been able to develop our societies in a way in which our ancestors would have been proud. Now, so now we find ourselves, the buccaneers are here in the person of the billionaires, EERS, aka the pirates. That's the word I was looking for, the pirates. Because that is what they're doing right now. They have captured our resources and they mean that they are going to keep them to themselves and they will not be shared with you and I. And the US is using the region as a means to launch its full spectrum dominance agenda. So Haiti, near to Venezuela, to Cuba. Jamaica also is in that strategic location. Guyana, of course, the United States is talking about capturing Maduro. And I understand that based on even the oil deal that they have, that you have military bases right now in Guyana, ready, waiting and ready to launch an attack on Venezuela. We hear that there is a 50 million bounty for the head of Presidente Maduro. That should be of concern to Caribbean leaders, because shouldn't the Venezuelan people be the ones to decide whether or not they like Maduro? And I'm not pro-Maduro. I don't even know the man. I'm just looking at the principle behind what is happening in the region. And if it continues to happen, we're going to suffer because we don't have the autonomy to lead in the way that we would like to lead our countries. We don't have the autonomy. We don't have the autonomy, the political autonomy, the economic autonomy. We don't have it. We pretend to have it. Our prime ministers and presidents pretend as if they're in charge, but we know that they're not in charge. The Mia Motleys and the Andrew Honuses and the Kamala Parasad Caesar and all of them, they are not really in charge. Okay? So I hope that we will look carefully. Tomorrow I'm going to bring back Fred Corbin, Mr. Fred Corbin, to speak about this whole matter of what is happening in Burkina Faso with Ibrahim Traoré, and what are some of the things that he's doing there, the laws and policies that he's implementing in Burkina Faso, and the things that Caribbean leaders need to imitate if they really want to develop. They have to imitate the fact that he's at least publicizing, making public the natural resources that we have privatized, I beg your pardon, and we have sold them off to foreign interests. We have sold them off to foreign interests. What are we doing? Okay, so thank you so much for joining. I hope that you would like the video and that you will subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Now, well, I'll post my video tomorrow at around 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Please let me know if you where you're watching from, and let me also know what you are interested in future videos for me to explore on any of the Caribbean region. And if you also have a guest that you'd like me to interview on the program, please let me know so that we can explore important topics that affect us, because we need deep political analysis in the region, which to a large extent is lacking. And that is the void that I'm trying to fill here on this show, Rumination with Andrew. So thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe. Like the video so the videos can be shared with as many people on the platform. And those of you who can also make your monetary contributions, if you're able to do so, don't force yourself, but if you're able to do so, I'd appreciate it greatly. And you can send it to Andy, that is ANDE _ Tucker _ 450 at hotmail.com. Andy _ Tucker _ 450 at hotmail.com. I'll leave it in the description where you'll be able to make your monetary donations. Thank you so much. Have yourselves a great day and see you in another one. Adios.